Let's go through an example process of plan to produce with discrete manufacturing using SAP S/4HANA Cloud enhanced with SAP's Digital Manufacturing Cloud. In this video, you see how SAP S/4HANA Cloud can cover the end-to-end plan to produce process for discrete manufacturing. You'll see how S/4HANA Cloud guides users step by step through the planning and production execution processes, and how S/4HANA Cloud can predict and resolve material shortages and production capacity issues. You'll also see how the Digital Manufacturing Cloud can execute production on the shop floor with seamless integration to S/4HANA Cloud, and how simple and clear SAP S/4HANA Cloud is, and how easy it is to get started with, and yet comprehensive enough to cover the entire end-to-end process. We'll start with Susan, who is in charge of MRP and demand planning. Firstly, she'll resolve some capacity issues based upon the demand plan using Predictive MRP, followed by using MRP to create a production order and resolve material shortages. Then we move on to Jerry, who's our production planner, who will review the production capacity, schedule the production order, and release the production order. Then we've got Imran on the shop floor, who will carry out the production execution using the Digital Manufacturing Cloud. In there, he will execute the assembly operation, followed by the inspection operation. This will lead to a non-conformance that will lead to a rework order that will have to be carried out. Then back to the final inspection for closing the non-conformance, accepting the buy-off, and then packing the product. Finally, we'll go back to Jerry in S/4HANA Cloud to review the production order and see that the inventory has been updated. So let's start with Susan in demand planning, who will do the Predictive MRP. I'm in the home page for S/4HANA Cloud here, where you'll see the tasks, favorite pages, apps, and analytical insights. I'll select my plan to produce page. And the first tile you see here is for maintaining PIRs, or planned independent requirements, for the forecasted demand. Let's go into Predictive MRP simulations for some bike demand. So we've got this bike forecast we've set up here. We've got two capacity issues. We'll go into the details. What will come up here is a forecast for 3 bikes, and here in the red boxes you see we've got particular issues relating in particular to capacity issues. If I select these, we've got capacity issues on the assembly and the inspection work center. Let's focus on the assembly work center, where we're over by 35%. And let's just put on the capacity chart. Here we can see the red overload here for a particular week. If I scroll across here, you see it's week 47 and we're over by 8.433 hours. If I select that, I can also see the demand of the top level materials. There's 4 of them that are creating this demand overload. And what I can do is shift the demand if I needed to release some of that capacity. Or what I will do is just select the week 47 here, and we can see it's over by 8.23 hours. Let's just change the available capacity, and maybe we'll add some overtime, etc. So if we adopt the proposal to increase by 36% and click apply, that will solve that capacity issue. You can see here the red block's gone now. And then you've got another capacity issue you want to resolve, and then some delivery performance issues, and there'll be material constraint issues as well. Let's leave that as it is at the moment, and then move on to the next stage. So Susan was able to use Predictive MRP for evaluating medium to long-term demand and coming up with a feasible plan for improving delivery performance and capacity utilization. Now Susan needs to go into MRP, create a production order, and evaluate the material shortages. So let's go into this app, check material coverages, and we'll look up one of the bikes that we've got a forecast for, this R10 bike. And here we see the MRP movements, the opening stock of 105, and all the planned movements over time. You can see it in the table format, and you can see it graphically in the chart view. And as you move the timeline window across, you'll see the blue replenishments and the orange requirements. Let's go back to the table view. Now, there's lots of planned orders being created and production orders. Let's actually just create an order manually for this example demonstration. Let's go for 10 bikes. Give it a date. And then the source of supply. In this case, it's a production version where we only have one of. And we create a planned order 3186. Now let's find our planned order and convert it to a production order. Here we go. Click OK. And now we have production order 1050038. And let's have a look at this order. And here we see the order details. And if we go down to the operations, we've got an assembly operation, an inspection operation, and various components required to build this bike. Now let's go and review the order from the MRP perspective for the production order and see if there are any material shortages. Let's call up our order. There's a quantity 10 here, and we can see here we've got one component is missing. Let's select it and go to Manage Orders and click on the Components tab. And you can see this R10 frame here. We've got 30 pieces missing. If I go to Manage Components, we'll go down to the MRP movements for the actual frame, and we see various requirements here. If I go into the chart view, I can see various shortages occurring, see where the red lines are. For our particular order, we've got our 30 frames that are short. Let's select that. And the system now is giving us various options for solving these shortages rated with these star ratings. Let's try this one, this 2-star one, just to simulate it and see what would happen. It's for creating a new requisition. Because of the lead time, it's still going to have our shortage. So let's cancel that and try one of the 3-star ones, which should work. Let's try this one with a purchase requisition that's already there, bring it in by 2 days and increase it by 21. And if we simulate it, I can see that that shortage is resolved. And now let's apply it and click OK. If this was an actual purchase order, then a change request will get sent to the purchasing department, or you can transmit it directly to the supplier via an Ariba communication. So we've seen how Susan can use MRP to create production orders and intelligently evaluate material shortage resolutions. The MRP uses the MRP Live engine, allowing you to run MRP faster and throughout the day, enabling her to react to requirements and shortages far quicker, improving lead time and reducing material costs. Now let's move on to Jerry for production planning, starting with the reviewing the capacity of the assembly work center for our production order, then scheduling it, followed by releasing the production order. I'll go back into Monitor Production Orders and then find our order. Go into Details. This time I'll go into the Milestone tab. And here we can see that it hasn't started. There are 2 operations, one for assembly and final inspection, and we need to release it. But we want to see the utilization for the assembly work center. If I draw down into the details for that, here we can see the assembly work center and the total capacity requirements and the utilization chart. And if we go into the details, we've got various overloads signified by the red columns on the particular days. If we look at the 27th and view the operations, we can see there's our order or our particular operation that's creating some of that overload. So let's see about how we can reschedule the work here and smooth out the capacity. So I'll go into the capacity scheduling board. And here's our work center. Let's just expand that. And let's add some more details onto the board. Let's add the order ID and the product ID. And expand it again. And this time zoom in a bit to find our order. And again. And if I hover over this particular operation, we can see it's for our order. We can manage the operations and schedule that particular operation individually, but I think what we're going to do is just select the entire work center, and we can either realign the schedule or schedule the entire order range. So we go to schedule production. That'll give us the full list of orders that are impacted within the horizon, and we can select all these orders, and let's set the strategy for the scheduling, and we'll change it to forward, and we'll set it to sequence planning mode. And then if I click on dispatch, that will carry out the scheduling for me. Now if I go back to the chart, let's save it first, and go back. And you see that the orders have been rescheduled and realigned, and I can prove that the capacity has been eliminated for the overload by drilling into the details and opening up Manage Work Center Capacity. And you can see that the utilization chart now has no red columns, and if I go into details, you can see I only have the orange columns representing the 100% utilization. Now let's go into Manage Production Orders, and we'll find our order. And we can see it's now scheduled for November the 1st, and if I select it, I can release my order, and that will send it to the manufacturing execution system. And also if I go back to monitor production orders, we can see that the status has changed. Let's just find our order again. It's now released, and if I go to the details and then to the milestone view again, you can see that the checkbox for the release has been created, and that the operations have been set to release as well. So Jerry was able to review the capacity of the assembly work center, schedule the production order, and finally release it, optimizing the production capacity and ensuring delivery. On releasing the order, Jerry sent it to the digital manufacturing cloud for execution. Now Im runs on the shop floor, and he will go into the DMC, Digital Manufacturing Cloud, and start by executing the assembly operation, followed by the inspection. In that, he will end up recording a non-conformance, which will create a rework order, which he'll have to carry out. This will lead to final inspection, logging the buy off, and packing the final bike. Now we are in DMC. There are many options here, including the dispatching and monitoring of production orders and scheduling labor, scheduling tools, managing OEE, and full plant connectivity to the shop floor. For this demo, we'll concentrate on the execution side of things. So we'll start with going to the Work Center pod, and we'll select our Assembly Work Center and the resource for the assembly. So what the system has done is created an SFC shop floor control order for each individual bike. So we've got 10 individual SFCs. If we take one of these, we can start the assembly of one of the bikes. So let's start the assembly. And we get these work instructions here. We can have different types of work instructions, including images, PDFs, text documents. And we've also got our embedded 3D viewer, where you can build work instructions using animation with our Visual Enterprise suite. And let's just have a look at these. As for our particular bike, let's look at some step instructions. And the operator can use these animations to play a particular step. For example, here we can look at step 2, and we'll just play some of these. And you can see the full disassembly of the pedal of the particular bicycle. So now let's close this. And now the operator might be able to record some data. So they can capture data automatically using connectivity to equipment and shop floor connectivity. But we'll just do this manually and go into data collection. And you can do lots of results. So let's just do one set of results and click on collect. And we'll enter the torque, which has to be between 65 and 70, and the RPM, and we've got a temperature reading as well. And we'll save that. And maybe the operator has to do several readings over the period of time during this operation. Now let's just record the activity time, so doing the confirmation. And we've got our standard values here, which we can adjust, but we'll just report the standard times and click on confirm. Then we'll complete the operation to say that it's been done. And we'll go back out. Now if we go back into S/4HANA Cloud, and we'll just switch over and go back into monitor production orders, we can see the real-time update from the digital manufacturing cloud. Let's find our order. We can see it's in progress. Select it and go down to the milestone tab again, and we can see it started and that the first operation has been completed, so the open quantities drop down to 9. So back to DMC, and we'll carry out the inspection. So let's go to the Work Center pod. And this time we'll find the inspection work center and the appropriate resource. And we should just see the one bike that has been required to do inspection based on the assembly that we've done already. So there's just one bike here related to our order for a quantity of 1. And let's go and do the inspection. Let's first confirm the components that have been issued, and we'll check these off, and we'll go through individually and just enter various details. We're just going to confirm the quantities. And then we'll go through each of these in turn, and if needs be, you may need to record a batch number. That's depending on whether you've set the system to be batch numbered or serial number controlled. So now we've recorded all our components, and let's report the activity time. We've accepted that. And now let's say there was a non-conformance. So we go to the non-conformance tab, and we've got some NC codes. Let's log a non-conformance for the frame. Let's say there was an issue with the frame, and we'll add the non-conformance. And then we'll select that this is going to require a rework routing. So now our SFC is going to be processed as a rework order, and it's disappeared off the list here for the inspection, and it'll be in our rework pod. So go into our rework pod, we should see a new SFC created for the rework. And if I go into the details here, And you've got your usual updates for work instructions if required, and data collection components if you need to do those. So we'll carry out the rework, and then we'll go into the non-conformance tab, and we'll close off that we've acknowledged we've completed the non-conformance issues and the rectifications. And then we'll complete the rework, and it's going to ask us what do we want to do now, and we're going to select to return it back to final inspection. And click OK. So now the inspection operations appeared back in the inspection pod. So let's go back to the Work Center pod and select the inspection Work Center again. And the resource. And it's come back here in our inspection SFC, and we can carry out the inspection again. So we don't need to issue any more components. Let's say it's all okay, we can go straight to packing. And we will create a new packing unit and select the packing material. And generate a packing unit ID. Click on create, and now we have a new packing unit ID. So let's select that, and we have to find our bike to add it to the packing unit. So let's just scroll down at the bottom list here, find our bike, and then click on add. And that's updated the packing. Click on OK. And now the product is packed. Go back to the activities. We try and complete it, but it's saying we actually haven't done our buy-off. We need our supervisor approval to be done first. So let's go into log the buy-off. We'll select the supervisor, add a comment, and accept the buy-off. Now the off has been cleared and it's been completely done. So to recap on the execution within DMC, Imran was able to execute the assembly operation, reviewing the visual work instructions and collecting some data. Then he carried out the inspection and confirmed the material consumption, which led to the recording of a non-conformance and creating a rework operation. After completing the rework, he re-inspected the bike and approved the buy-off for the non-conformance. Now Jerry will go back into S/4HANA Cloud and review the production order and check that the inventory has increased. Let's go into monitor production orders and find our order. Now you can see that we've got a balance of 9 as we've already completed one, and that's still in progress. And let's go into manage orders and look at the milestones. And you can see there are open quantities of 9 for both operations, but we've completed one of each. And let's open the production order and look at the goods movement transactions. And there's a goods movement transaction here for the actual bike, the R10 bike. And if I just open that, you can see that we've had a good receipt for one, which came from a production order and posted the appropriate accounting documents. And if I go and look at the stock situation, let's go into stock single materials and call up our R10 bike. And there we see we've got 106 in stock when originally, if you remember, we had 105 in stock. So a final recap on what was demonstrated. We had Susan with MRP and demand planning, resolving capacity issues based upon the demand plan using Predictive MRP, followed by using standard MRP to create a production order and resolving material shortages. Then we got Jerry, who carried out production planning, where he reviewed the production capacity, scheduled the production order, and then released it. Then Imran on the shop floor carried out the production execution using the digital manufacturing cloud. In there he executed the assembly operation, then executed the inspection operation. This led to a non-conformance that initiated a rework op, which he then carried out. Then back to final inspection, packed the product and accepted the non-conformance buy-off. Finally, Jerry went back to S/4HANA Cloud, reviewed the production order and checked that the inventory had been updated.